the greatest? Is that not the greatest ever? Here he is, sight for sore eyes, the one, the only, Baldy. What's up, my brother?
Cuz you look fired up today, man. Must have been that Phillies
the weather's
comeback
changed.
or Eagles scrimmage or what's going on?
You know what it is? The weather's changed here. Like, it's gotten a little cooler. Nighttime, you start to feel a little bit like we're getting close. Bro said it, 22 days away, and you will be in Brazil.
I just got to figure out a way to get down to the field. I don't have a field pass yet, so I got to get that done. So I'm working on that. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, really, because I think, it's interesting. The Eagles didn't really show this last week, but we saw teams around the league play their starting offense. We saw Cincinnati, Joe Burrow. We saw Mahomes, Josh Allen, C.J. Stroud. I mean, I don't think these teams want to wait till the middle of September, end of September to find the rhythm. To me, I think some of these teams are like, we're not coasting into this thing. We're going to get our team ready to play. We understand the chance for injury exists always. But I feel like a lot of teams said, you know what, we're gonna hit the ground running. September 6th, Sao Paulo, Jordan Love is out there. We're gonna see some of these teams play their starters a lot more in the preseason than I think we're used to.
Yeah, that was one of my notes for you, which is it's noticeable, guys, that there are teams that are starting to play their people. And it feels like more urgent. What do you attribute that to?
Well, I don't know exactly, because look, we've had 3 preseason games the last couple of years, so that's not it. But typically we see the guys, because there's a 2-week layoff between the last preseason game and the start of the season. But I just feel like to see Jordan Love out there, to see Mahomes, to see Josh Allen, see these guys. Joe Burrow go 14 plays right down the field, and they score a touchdown. Jaden Daniels. I mean, whether they're rookies or veterans now, I attribute it to that you can't get this timing that you need with your starters unless you're actually playing. I mean, I know the Eagles scrimmage with the Patriots, and I know the Jets are scrimmaging today with Carolina, whatever. Even that, I don't know that you can get the right game timing that you need. And so what I've been saying is, like, August is the new, September is the new August. Teams are like finally starting to play their players in September. It's too late. You can't afford to be in a hole to start the season right now.
Yeah, and people make a big deal. Well, you added a regular season game and that stuff, but that doesn't mean anything. Like, when you're 1-3. That puts a pall on the entire thing. And then there's an urgency. There's still that urgency. If you get off to a slow start, it starts to nag at you. And then all of a sudden you got to win.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I don't care who you are, what team you are. If you're Kansas City, I don't care what team you are. You lose 2 games in a row, the sky's falling in this league. It just is.
Yeah.
The pressure mounts. You can feel it. You can see it in the coaches and the players. And so nobody wants to be in that hole to start a season because, and look, if you do start in a hole, like, you got to come out of it, okay? Like, you don't have a choice. But it makes it a whole lot easier when all these teams are rebuilding the rosters. They're going through free agency. They're going through the draft. They're going through the offseason, preseason. You're 0-2. You feel like you haven't made any improvements. You're 1-2. You don't feel like the improvements you think you've made are showing up. So let's get some timing down. Even if it's a series, a good series or 2 series, let's get a little bit of pregame jitters out of us. Let's get the ball in the quarterback's hands. Let's get some timing with the running backs, the receivers, and let's get ready to play September 8th.
All right, so let's go around the league a bit. J.J. McCarthy, of course, the big story. Shame, man. It's something that the whole league winces and feels for the kid. What have you what's been your
well
kind of thing?
I mean, look, the kid played well the other day. Jack Jones picked him off in the opening series. Jack Jones is a hell of a player from the Raiders. Like, it was just a great play by him, but he bounced back, threw a couple touchdown passes. I felt like there was a real competition with him and Sam Darnold. and that's over. But what shocked me was I've had my meniscus tear. I mean, I thought a meniscus tear is a month, cause I didn't think it knocks you out for a whole season.
I
I
know.
mean, a torn ACL knocks you out for a season. A torn Achilles knocks you out for a season. But I didn't think a meniscus tear like scraps your whole season for you. That's what's like everybody has torn their meniscus at some point.
Yeah, they go
this
in and clean it up, and it's a 4 to 6 week
Well, we clean it up, and
recovery.
it's, at most it's 6 weeks, but some guys can come back in 3 weeks from that. To see him knocked out for the whole season, and to see him put him on the shelf for a season, that's what. Like I heard about the injury, I didn't know it was going to knock him out for a whole season. That's too bad because I think it's a good rookie class. We've seen examples of Caleb and Jaden, and Bo Nix look good. Like you would have thought, okay, like this kid was he was their choice. They tried to trade up maybe to go higher, but they had planned to work him into this offense at some point this season. They're not going to get that opportunity now.
What do you think of Darnold? I mean, people are saying he'll have success. I mean, I'm dubious.
Well, I mean, a couple things. One, he's never until he went to San Francisco last year and he saw what a real organization looks like. He has never known that. He was in transition in Carolina. The Jets were awful. He got hurt. So he got a chance to really watch the 49ers in action. A real offense, a real system, a real organization knows how to build a team. I think Kevin O'Connell knows how to do that in Minnesota. I think he's going to get a good offensive line. He's going to get an elite receiving core. He's going to get an excellent running back. I mean, if Sam Darnold is ever going to put a career together, it's got to be right now.
Yeah, you wonder, can he be Geno Smith, who starts to to kind of gets it, and really it's all the sum of all parts. And it's so interesting you touched on that because what the coaching, the greatest mismatches on Sundays are the guys wearing the headsets on the sidelines and how they've put everything together. And you just illustrated that.
Well, I mean, look, nothing illustrated that more than the Eagles' collapse last year. And, all the different things they did on the defensive side of the ball, Sean Desai, Matt Patricia, et cetera, et cetera. Just the play calling at the end. Jason Kelsey talked about it yesterday. They scaled back so much that they were so simple and they were so easy to diagnose. The game, like the head coach, if it is Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan or Andy Reid, they are the play callers. It is in their hands. Who are they going up against? Spagnuolo against whatever your coordinator is. That chess match is real. All right. How are you going to react to the blitzes? How are you going to look to the different defensive schemes that they're going to employ? All the disguises that they're going to do. The chess match is in the hands of the play callers, period. And it's next level in this league because it never really ends and it never stops.
All right. So what about Dallas? What's the latest? What are you hearing about the Cowboys?
Well, I mean, Jerry Jones put his foot in the sand last week and saying we're good. He kind of backtracked a little bit on CeeDee Lamb. They're not going anywhere without CeeDee Lamb. The whole offense went through him. I mean, he caught 1/3 of all the completions that Dak had last year went to CeeDee Lamb. Like every big play, you look at the Eagles games last year and what he did against them. Like they had no answer for CeeDee Lamb. The guy is a great player. He is an elite. That guy over the middle reminds me of Drew Pearson over the middle. He's fearless. And he plays multiple positions. Like he lines up everywhere. He's looking for matchups. And it's Dak's first read. Like you take him out of the offense, they're not going to be very good. And so now maybe he's one of those guys like I remember Zach Taylor telling me that Jamar Chase needs 2 days of practice. He's good to go. And maybe CD does. I just think that guys that missed camp and miss off seasons the way he has, they always struggle the next year. Nick Bosa told me that last year. Like he missed all the camp, all the offseason. He came in on Friday before the opener, and he wasn't the same guy as he was when he was Defensive Player of the Year. I think it's going to affect the Cowboys, and that's just me. But I don't believe you get timing. I don't think it's riding a bike. You don't get timing by just showing up.
Yeah, I listen. I feel you. Let's go through some of these teams because you've been making the tour. You've been at camps. You've gotten vibes on certain teams. Give me some team. Let's look at the NFC first.
Yeah.
Teams that have the arrow up. That you're going. All right. Like I like what I'm seeing. I like what I'm hearing. And then maybe a couple that are down.
Well, let's just look at where the Eagles finished their season last year in Tampa. Like, Tampa is a good team. Like, that's not a fluke what they did. They won the division 3 years in a row. I told Todd Bowles that for the first time in his whole career, he's got coaching stability. Jason Light, Todd Bowles, like they won the Super Bowl. All right, um, you know, Bruce, Arians, like he retires. Okay, here we go. Like, that is a good football team. Grant Barton I think is going to be a very good center. But defensively, they got a good blend of young and old guys, veteran players in key positions, but young players. The receiving core is very good. This Jalen McMillan out of Washington, they love him. He might be their slot receiver. They're going to move the ball on the ground for the first time in 5 years. Like, I like Tampa, but I think Atlanta will be better. You saw what Michael Penix did last week. Like, that kid, like, I know it's Kirk Cousins' team, but if something happens to Kirk, they're going to be fine with Michael Penix. I like both those teams to step up. I'm not so sure about New Orleans. The Rams are going to be very good.
Yeah.
They're going to be very good. Like, now,
Yeah,
they're
they scare me.
well, they're minus 3 starting offensive linemen, so I got to see Rob Havenstein if he comes back, and Alaric Jackson, their left tackle. I mean, they're minus their starting tackles right now, so I got to see how quickly they come back. And but Seattle's going to be good. Like, they've addressed some problems on the defense. The coach, I think, knows what he's doing. I think they're going to be pretty good. Like, those are teams I think the arrow's looking up in the NFC.
Wow, that's interesting. How about you go maybe the arrow's a little down in the NFC?
I mean, I don't know. Minnesota right now, we
Yeah.
got to see. I mean, they got to. You're down to Sam Darnold and really nobody else right now. So if Sam could do it, I think they're going to be okay. I know that Brian Flores can coach. They've had to rebuild their entire defensive line, so that's a difficult thing to do. But now they've got talent there, but that's difficult to replace 4 starters on the defensive line. Chicago, look, if Caleb looks like he did in that first quarter last week and he can play to the talent level, I don't know. We'll see.
That division, oh my God, between the Lions, Packers, and I like the Bears, man. Oh my. That division's nasty.
I joke about this to every team I talk to in this league because they always ask me about Philly. I'm like, well, the Eagles' best linebacker starts for the Bears, and TJ
Edwards.
Yeah. TJ Edwards. Like, he's still the Eagles' best linebacker. You can watch Zach Bond and Devin White and N'Kobe and Trot. You can walk them all. I'm like, that's the best linebacker in Chicago. So like that defense last year, they beat Detroit down the stretch. They beat the Packers down the stretch. Like, they were good in their division last year. And now you had Caleb and Keenan, and DJ in the second year in Rome and Swift. Like, why can't they compete in that division?
Yeah, I'm with you. Let me ask you about the Giants, and then we'll go to the AFC. But I don't see how they're going to be good, right? Like, and we've all seen the whole thing. But I got a weird feeling that somehow it oddly comes together. What do you think of them?
Well, I sat down with their starting left tackle, Andrew Thomas, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he's on his 5th offensive line coach in 5 years. Wow. They have not been able to put – now, he is a very good player. Like, he had a rocky rookie season. He got hurt last year in the opening game of the season.
Yeah.
Tore his string on a kickoff return, block kickoff return. I'm sorry, block extra point, block field goal. And he tore his hamstring. So he wasn't the same guy. But, like, they can't put a line together, cuz. Like, they signed John Runyon, good, solid signing. John's a good player. Jermaine Illuminar, solid player. They don't have the starting center got hurt in the opening week of camp, hadn't played. John Michael Schmitz. They signed a kid off the street, Greg Van Roten, He's been a journeyman. He's their starting center right now. Like, Illuminar was brought in to be the starting guard because they thought Evan Neal, the 7th pick in the draft 3 years ago, was going to be their tackle. Hadn't practiced yet. Like, they can't put a line together. Until they do, as good as Malik Neighbors looks, and he looks all world. When I've seen him, he looks all world to me. Like, is Daniel Jones going to have time? Can they run the ball? Like, I think defensively they're going to be pretty good. But they have a young secondary, so we'll see. But I don't know. Like, they have struggled to put this offensive line together. I don't know what difference it makes at quarterback or receiver if they can't protect and run the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I keep looking at them going, there's no way they can be good. And, I look at them, and I was always a Dable guy. I'm surprised it really hasn't clicked for him because I was worried from an Eagles perspective about Dable going to New York.
Well, I mean, look, he won a playoff game his rookie season there. They finished really strong. They went to Minnesota, won a playoff game. They were worn out when the Eagles took them apart. They beat the Eagles on the final game of the season, or final week of the season last year, wiped them up. I mean, Brian Dable can coach. Every coach, you got to have a line. You got to have a quarterback. You can game plan and scheme other things, but you got to have those basics. They gave up 85 sacks. It's an NFL record last year. 85 sacks in 17 games. Like, the worst any team has ever had, ever. And so you can talk about quarterback. Like, they got to get that part fixed. I don't care. I mean, Brian Flores, he came from Buffalo where they had a good line and they had Josh Allen. All right. They had a line stayed pretty healthy 2 years ago. They had Saquon. He had a monster year 2 years ago. And, they game planned and schemed and they got themselves to the playoffs and they won a playoff game. Like, Brian can coach. I think he's going to call the plays this year. But you got to have those basics for any team.
All right. Give me arrows up in the AFC.
Well, I think Cincinnati, you got to have an arrow up. I mean, Joe Burrow, you watched that opening drive of his last week.
I did. I saw it.
I mean, there's Trent Irwin on third down. Like, I was sitting with Steve Smith Sr., right? And we're watching him on the opening drive, and he throws this touchdown pass to T. Higgins. And Steve says to me, he goes, Baldy, you see the ball placement of that? And I go, yeah, but it was away from the defender. He goes, yeah. He goes, the defender's on the backside of T. Higgins. He threw it away from him, and he was able to spin inside and score the touchdown. If he threw it on the other side, he would have the defender would have tackled the catch. The guy can put the ball here, or he can put it right here. He is, and I've talked to Troy Aikman about this. He's as close to perfection of Tom Brady from a mechanic standpoint as we see. Wow. And it's the first time he's ever played in preseason. But he covers every weakness they have on this team when he's out there at full speed.
I took him plus 900 for MVP this year.
You did? Wow. Yeah, that's a good play.
In fact, bro, I asked a couple guys. I go, can Burrow be the MVP of this league? And they go, oh, it's just a matter of time. Like, he's just that good. Now, Jamar's got to get out there. A couple things got to take place. But this rookie, Amarius Mims, like, I think that kid's going to be the right tackle for a long time.
Baldy, real quick, the NFC, the ownership change down south in the Commanders. Two-part question. Is Jaden Daniels having a really strong camp? And secondly, has there been like kind of a culture wash there, and are things headed in the right direction?
So I met Josh Harris. I've never met him before, bro. I met him at the Jet scrimmage last week. I think it was Wednesday. And I think a lot of players hadn't met him because I saw Zach Ertz go up and introduce himself, and Jaden Daniels was talking to him. So he was there with his staff. But I was asking Josh about, does Magic Johnson, can he call plays on third down? He goes, Baldy, look, that guy has got an aura about him about winning. Like, they just want winners in the building. Like, I feel for the first time. I mean, Daniel Snyder was Daniel Snyder, all the coaches that went through there. I feel like they pressure washed the entire organization. The general manager, all he does is talk football with me. The guy comes out of San Francisco. He's a young guy. I feel like him and Dan Quinn are joined at the hip. I think they have a chance to turn this thing around. Now, look, Dan Quinn wasn't their first choice. It was Ben Johnson. They thought they had him. And it's weird when you look at coordinated, like head coaches now, are they offensive guys or defensive guys? It's just, if you're if you're head coach and defensive coordinator, but your offense, like, it's just weird. Like, you could fire your head coach because the defense is broken, but you can't do that to the offense. So you have to get your offense right. It's just, I understand Ben Johnson and the need to want to get his game planning, his offense, his mind out there. Dan Quinn can coach. We'll see what Cliff Kingsbury does as the offense coordinator. Because I like
that's the scary thing, Baldy. Like, if you come from that side of the ball, you got your OC. But if your OC's young, right? Your OC is ambitious. He's going to look for a head coaching job, and now you're stuck. It's a revolving door, which is why most of these guys like going offense.
Well, it's like, so if you look in this league right now, like, all these new coaches are coming out of Sean McVay's system.
Yes.
Like, there's head coaches and coordinators all over the league, but he's still the play caller. So, he's not going anywhere, but he's groomed all these other guys. Kevin O'Connell, you go around the league. Like, they're all a disciple. Liam Cohen in Tampa now, they're all a disciple of, like, he's the new Andy Reid. Like, everybody wants a piece of that offense. But the good thing is Sean McVay is still the play caller and the head coach. So all these other guys can fly out of the nest. Like, he'll just get the next guy up.
What do you think of Ben Johnson? And after the whole thing, the switcheroo, he's such a bright guy. I love with the lines. Do you think it was more like, hey, let me stay one more year? I mean, Dable did that in Buffalo, remember, before he took the Giants job.
I remember talking to Bobby Stoops one day. He was coaching in Florida with Steve Spurrier, a young guy. And he had opportunities to leave Florida and go coach someplace. And Steve just told me, he goes, look, not every job is a good job, coach. And Bobby Stoops sat for a year, and the next year he went to Oklahoma. And he had 20 years there at Oklahoma. And it was awesome. Won a national championship, the whole thing. But I would say to Ben Johnson, and I'm sure he thought about this, not every job is a great job. Now, the ownership change, all that stuff going on in Washington, who knows? Maybe Dan Campbell said, look, it's the same thing. Maybe he said not every job is a good job. And I just think that they got something going in Detroit. He's young. I know his agent really well. I think he's not going to go backwards. They're not going to go backwards. So the coaching jobs out there will still be there next year, the year after. So I don't know. He changed his mind in the middle of the air. He's flying to Washington and turned around.
I know.
So I don't even know the whole story. Maybe you know the backstory there. I just know, like, he was on his way to Washington.
It was done. The thing was done.
Yeah.
Great stuff, my brother. Where are you off to?
Well, I'm flying to LA tomorrow, and I'm going to be out there in the studio. Obviously, the Eagles play tonight, so I'll be breaking that game down tomorrow morning. But I'm going to go out to the studio and just do all this analysis around all these games Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, love it. It's Baldy heaven, baby. This is great.
But the fun thing about it, honestly, because I got the depth chart of every team. I'm watching all these games, and I'm going through the 2s and the 3s, and I'm just looking. Okay, Elijah Klein, 6th-round pick out of Tampa. Out of UTEP, starting at guard for Tampa. I'm like, the guy looks like a pretty good player. I'm just learning the rosters and guys that could land someplace, they could start, they could step up. So it's good for me. I love it.
Yeah, it's the best. Oh, we love you, buddy. You're the greatest.
Thanks,
the great Baldy.
Oh, Baldy.
That's it. Oh, Baldy.
We all silly.